In today's Speaking Your Truth video, you're going to discover how to move people to your side, gracefully and automatically. We're using the second part of Tucker Carlson's interview with Congressman Matt Gaetz regarding allegations of potential sex trafficking by Gaetz to show you the 5 do's of the seemingly magical feat. And just as importantly, the 5 don'ts.
And this former Department of Justice official tomorrow was supposed to be contacted by my father so that specific instructions could be given regarding the wiring of $4.5 million as a down payment on this bribe. I don't think it's a coincidence that tonight, somehow, the New York Times is leaking this information, smearing me, and ruining the investigation that would likely result in one of the former colleagues of the current DOJ being brought to justice for trying to extort me and my family.
Funny how the mirror works here. Matt Gaetz doesn't like to be accused, and yet he is accusing others. And again, going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's innocent, it's obvious that his emotions are up. He has the right to be angry, but it's just so much more effective if we mirror the state that we want to put other people into. It allows them to relax. It shows that, hey, there's nothing suspicious going on here.
His name is David McGee. He was a top official in the leadership in the Northern District of Florida as a prosecutor. He currently works at the Beggs and Lane law firm.
Okay, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. Maybe it's Matt Gaetz's tone, but he's using his position as a congressman and being on national TV as a bully pulpit to call out this guy, even say where he works. And it's one thing giving the guy's name, okay? Maybe that's justified here. Tucker Carlson asked for it. And perhaps if he didn't give it, he wouldn't sound credible. But to actually name the law firm and to make this guy a target, and to make that law firm a target, again, you know, it's kind of human nature. Actually, this is not human nature. This is more our animal nature. It's the part of ourself, that lower brain, that midbrain functionality, our amygdala, cerebellum, our basal ganglia, all of these lower and midbrain parts that we share in common with every other mammal on Earth. That fight or flight mechanism, not the higher brain functioning of being rational, of being able to have compassion, being able to make decisions, being able to look at ourselves. So he is functioning purely from that fight or flight mechanism, that lower brain, midbrain function, and it doesn't come off quite sounding too well to me here. How does it sound to you? Put your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Should Matt Gaetz be coming across so strongly? Or would he be better off using more of these 5 phases, this incremental, gentle, gracious, graceful approach to diffusing this whole issue right now? What do you think?
As a matter of fact, one of the recordings that was made at the FBI and Department of Justice request occurred at that law firm, and the money that was supposed to be paid today that would have shown even more evidence of David McGee's work in this extortion scheme, that was foiled by the New York Times story, and I believe that's why this horrible information and these terrible allegations have been used this evening.
Again, he's using extortion scheme, horrible information, terrible allegations. Yes, okay, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Nobody knows. We don't know. Is he guilty? Is he innocent? But from my standpoint, from the standpoint of the 5 phases, from the standpoint of us wanting to be effective in communicating, getting other people on our side, let the other person decide that it's horrible or terrible. It's another thing to say how you feel. This is just, I mean, he could be saying this is just so difficult on me and my family. It's not a good feeling to have this happening right now. That's honest, that's authentic. But by being so explicit, horrible, and terrible, he's trying to tell us how to feel. He's trying to cause us to be biased in his favor. And again, maybe you and I would do the same thing in his position, but it's usually much, much more effective if you let the other person decide for themselves.
I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment.
Now Matt Gaetz, he's toning his language down a little bit more. He's saying, I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment. That's much, much better language than just saying, this man was horribly extorting me and my family. By toning it down, he's allowing us to decide for ourselves. Yes, he's giving his viewpoint on it, that there was a demand for money, but by calling it a demand for money rather than outright extortion, he gives us the chance to call it extortion in our own mind. And whenever we decide for ourselves, it's much more powerful. Just like when you're in a conflict or you need to bring something up, when you need to speak your truth, you say things in a way using the 5 phases, this incremental approach, where you give the other person the grace to let them decide for themselves, rather than using such hardline, my way or the highway type of language.
I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he could make this investigation go away along with his co-conspirators. They even claim to have specific connections inside the Biden White House. Now, I don't know if that's true.
Okay, so the second part of his sentence, make this investigation go away along with his co-conspirators. All right, now he's back into the my way or highway approach. The first part was a little bit better, calling co-conspirators. Again, that's a very accusatory statement. Then he says, they even claim to have specific connections inside the Biden White House. Now, I don't know if that's true. Rather than letting the evidence come out for itself, he's trying to sway opinion, and he's admitting that he doesn't know that is true, but actually saying that at least that does tone down what he's saying. So I'll give that remark, now I don't know if that's true, I'll give that a B+. I'll give the rest of his statement that he said prior to that, as far as co-conspirators and so forth, I'm going to give that a D or maybe even a D-. But then looking at the beginning of the sentence, I know that there was demand for money in exchange for a commitment. Okay, I'll give that a B or a B-, as far as not being as hardcore.
They were promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Obviously, I don't need a pardon.
Okay, so this statement, they were promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Again, these hearsay type of statements. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want this to be a legal analysis. This is an analysis of how things work in real life when we're in conflict with other people. When we try to blame things, when we try to make innuendos, again, it reduces our credibility. Obviously, I don't need a pardon. We don't know that. Why don't you let us decide? Why don't you let us get all the evidence? Now, I've got to hand it to Andrew Cuomo, the way he handled all the accusations against him, whether or not he's guilty or innocent. But he did say, allow the investigation to continue and then make a decision.
I ask the people of this state to wait for the facts from the Attorney General's report before forming an opinion.
That's a much more equitable way to do it. Not to say that Cuomo is innocent and Gaetz is guilty. It could be the opposite. But that type of statement of decide for yourself, see all the evidence, it's a much, much more equitable type of statement to use.
I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong. But what I am troubled by is the real motivation for all of this. You know, just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation.
Okay, at this point, I've got to agree with him. Whenever politicians use something like this to make political points, saying that he should be taken off of the Judiciary Committee without even knowing really if he is guilty or innocent, I've got to side with the person who's being accused, because nobody should be judged before all the facts come in, especially when so little is known about this. And again, I'm going to refer back to Andrew Cuomo, that was his position. Let the investigation continue. He was, at least in words, supporting it. And in truth, this is the fair and equitable thing to do in these situations. And so in any case, I'm going to side with Matt Gaetz here. That was not correct for anybody to suddenly make this absolute assertive thing that you no longer belong on the Judiciary Committee simply because this accusation has been thrown at you.
I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like. You know the pain it can bring to your family, and you know how it just puts people on defense when you're accused of something so salacious and awful. But it did not happen. It is not true. And the fact that it is the basis of this attempt to extort my family tells a lot.
I don't know how good of an idea this was to bring this up about Tucker Carlson. Probably not the best idea. Now he's putting Tucker Carlson on the defensive. And so if I was him, if I was Matt Gaetz, yes, it is a good thing to try to get other people to see your viewpoint, but you do it in a way that doesn't put them in an awkward position. And so he could have said to Tucker Carlson, you're in the public eye also. You know what it's like to be accused of wrongdoing. That would have been a much better way to say it. And then in Tucker's own mind, he would be probably thinking of that incident that happened with him and become much more sympathetic to him. Now, with Tucker's next statement, you'll see Tucker has to defend himself, and he does it very agilely, very, very gracefully.
And if the FBI and Department of Justice will release the tapes that they are in possession of, the American people will see what is really going on.
A much, much better statement. I'm gonna give him an A for that one, because it's not demanding. It's not, I demand that the Justice Department release this right away. No, he's saying if they do release it, then the American people will be able to see what's going on. He's saying, yes, decide for yourself. If you see the evidence, you will be able to decide. It will be clear for yourself. He's inferring rather than insisting. Such a powerful difference there, to infer rather than to insist. Take a moment to review the list. Write in the comments below the 1 or 2 points that stand out most for you and why. Where might that point help one of your personal relationships? Where might it help one of your professional relationships? Remember to subscribe and share this video on Facebook or with someone you know who is in need of its message. And watch the next video and previous one in the series to continue bringing more truth, harmony, cooperation, and love to your family, professional relationships, and the world. Blessings to you, dear friend.